Today I have my friend, Kurt Elster. He has an amazing podcast, y'all. I had the pleasure of being on it. It's called the Unofficial Shopify Podcast. He has an incredible Facebook community, and he has seen people on Shopify scale from 5 to 6 to 7 to 8 figures. We don't have time to cover all of the wealth of his immense expertise, but we will be talking about if you were to make your first 100K on Shopify, which is a lot of you, what are the 3 mistakes that you're making and what you should do instead? Welcome to the show, Kurt.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about your, I don't want to say obsession, but you have such a wheelhouse of knowledge with Shopify. So can you tell us why you love the platform and why you have a podcast dedicated to it?
I've been involved in e-commerce my entire adult life. And we went from, back in 2011, we discovered Shopify, built a first custom Shopify theme for a friend who owned a local bike shop. And they immediately took notice and they said, you should join our experts program. And we built another site. And I said, at the end of both those projects, we went, that was really easy. And it only took 2 or 3 projects before it occurred to us, wait a second, why are we doing anything else? Everything else is painful. Shopify is easy and it's well documented. And so I said, all right, let's do only this. We hitched our cart to the right horse at the right time.
Yeah, you really are one of the OGs because now it's everywhere and it's getting so hard to get noticed, but we're going to talk a little bit about that. What I love about what you're doing is, of course, you've seen the evolution of things, right? You've seen the beginning and now it's everyone's on Shopify. Let's get into it since you've seen all the iterations and the evolution of it. There's a lot of them, but what is the first mistake? If I were to want to sell 100K on Shopify, what do I need to avoid?
All right, the most common question I get for someone who's new is, which theme should I use? And then they'll always qualify. They'll be like, which theme should I use for, and then be a leather goods store. Realistically, any theme in the Shopify theme store will work for any niche of product category in e-commerce. But what happens is in those Shopify themes in the theme store, they use real photos from real stores. They get their permission, of course. But it lends to a presentation where people just assume like, oh, this theme is for this vertical. This is for lingerie. This is for leather goods. And it just isn't the case. I think the mistake people make is, one, not buying a theme from the Shopify theme store. Stuff in the theme store is guaranteed to work right with all of Shopify's current features when you install that theme and then get updated and supported. But I think for someone new to it, the premium themes that cost you $300-$400 for a one-time license, they're very good. But if you've never used Shopify before, you've never used that theme editor, you're not a web developer, you're just going to find them intimidating and a little frustrating. I would recommend start with Shopify's default, their free theme, Dawn, which is very good, very fast, it's flexible, but it doesn't have all those bells and whistles and sections and templates and settings that could be overwhelming to someone who's just getting started on the platform. Having some constraints is very helpful here. I'd say, don't worry about the theme. Just start with Dawn. Just get going, get a good theme going, and you will know when you feel limited by it. And then that's when it's time to upgrade. But by then you'll have figured out positioning, messaging, the content, because the content, the clarity, all that stuff, that is what is going to sell your products, sell your brand and tell that story, not which theme you picked.
It's really a telltale sign of someone just beginning is like, you're so caught up in the colors and not to say that it doesn't matter, but you're so caught up in the bells and whistles, but you're not doing the harder work, but the more important work of your messaging and content. And so you're wasting your time figuring out problems that really aren't problems. Like you said, pick one and go with it. And I love that because you can really get into a deep, dark rabbit hole of all the things, decision paralysis. So choose Dawn, hear it from Kurt. He has worked with so many Shopify people. Just pick one and go with it. What is mistake number 2?
Mistake number 2 is people early on, you're so focused on getting purchases, which makes sense, that you end up forgetting about the post-purchase experience. Once you get that first sale, what happens? Because realistically in an e-commerce business, all the effort went into getting that first sale. It's probably not the most profitable one. The subsequent sales, when those customers return to your store and buy 2, 3, 4 times, that's where the profit lives in an e-commerce business, especially when you sell a physical product. You probably paid some level of acquisition cost on an ad to get that first customer. And so the biggest mistake I see is people who don't have product reviews or aren't actively collecting product reviews from their customers because they say, well, I don't want to put the reviews up because I don't have reviews. And it becomes this strange self-fulfilling prophecy where the store just never gets product reviews because at some point you have to start with 0 reviews and then start collecting them. And so no better time than to start at the beginning of the store. You don't have to show the product review stars. In the theme editor, you could hide those elements and then only show what you need for someone to actually write a review for your product. And then you want to stay in touch with them. And so sending follow-up emails, whether that's automated or regular campaign emails, that really is where you're going to pad out your bottom line in an e-commerce business. And those tools are all built into Shopify. I often, see people with no one on their email list asking, which email service provider should I use? Which CRM should I use? Well, heck, that stuff's built into Shopify. They have a feature literally called Shopify Email that'll let you do it. And then it'll also do automation. And so you can have another opportunity to sell that messaging and that brand story in as soon as someone makes a purchase, a little customized thank you letter that goes out to them via Shopify emails and automation, thanking them for their first purchase. And then maybe later, hey, here's some other things you might like. You want to just stay top of mind and have as many touch points as you can post-purchase so that hopefully they come back and become a repeat customer. Because those are the folks that are going to help grow your business through word of mouth and referring you to their friends and family, especially if you are candid and say, hey, we're just starting out, we're new. You'll be honest with them. People love to back an underdog.
Even in my business, I don't have a physical product, but I will say that especially in this day and age, it's really the handful of your super fans that are going to keep buying from you, making up the bulk of your revenue. And if you think about it another way, it's like, do I want to keep feeding the beast? Do I want to keep acquiring a new lead? And then it kind of just goes out one window, or do I want to keep a flywheel and have the cyclical situation in my business where it's constantly feeding into this abundance? So I think a lot of people overlook customer retention because they're so focused on the front end. A lot of the really healthy businesses that you and I both see are really, really optimizing for that post-purchase behavior. I want to break that apart a little bit. You talked about two things. You talked about reviews, and then you talked about the emails. So how do people get reviews when it's really not a natural act? What is the easiest way to break the ice and actually get someone to write a review?
When you're just starting out, I think you have such an opportunity to be vulnerable, and that's a win. One of the mistakes I see people make early on is just pretending to be way bigger than they are. And what's the advantage in that? If you're honest about being a person, an individual who is just trying to start a business, people can relate to that. And they can relate to people more than they can relate to someone faking being a big brand. And so I think that's how you get the reviews. If that early review request email, and I think it should go out probably 14 days after fulfillment, would be like a general good rule of thumb for that. But if in that email request you customize it and you say, hey, can you leave a review because we don't have very many yet? Wow. How honest, how vulnerable, how authentic. I have literally never seen anyone say that. And I think that's just such a brilliant way to do it. Hey, we just don't have any. We need your help here. And if they had a good experience, if they could relate to you, they are so much more likely to write a glowing review in that case. And hopefully you will have made yourself memorable in the process.
Or even if I get something that's like, we're a mom and pop store or a mother and daughter team, we launched this in our kitchen, it would really mean so much to us. People naturally want to help other people. And so if you're telling me that I'm really going to help you by writing a review other than, oh, we just want to collect as many reviews as possible, I'm going to write that review. So that's actually a great way. So you're saying you don't really need all that many incentives. You don't need to give them anything for free. You can just tell them that their reviews matter, and that's worked.
Yeah. One thing that I'd be willing to pay for, that I would be willing to incentivize people on, is if they could provide a video. You think getting a review is hard? Try to get a video review. Oh my gosh, that's so hard. But they're powerful. And some of these review platforms will let you upload video now. And man, that UGC, that user-generated content, that's the good stuff. That's social proof. That really helps move the needle, helps people feel more comfortable about making a purchase from a brand they may not be familiar with yet. And so that is the spot where I'd say, all right, I would be willing to trade people a healthy one-time use coupon for submitting UGC that we feature on the site or feature in social media.
That's good. So like a one-time use coupon, or if it's very expensive, maybe like a discount code?
A discount code would work as well. The only thing I'm trying to avoid is gift cards. You have to account for them differently. And so if I'm doing incentives, I'd rather have it as free product or a coupon code. I know I can issue gift cards in Shopify, but depending on what state we're in or what country we're in, those could be treated as cash. And so it's like, all right, you have to account for them, and it's a liability on your books.
That's actually a really good point. Thank you for that. So we talked about reviews. They're really important. You actually have a first mover's advantage if you're just beginning. Let's talk about the post-purchase. Now, we can have a separate episode on just that. Email analytics can get very complex. But overall, if I just started today, what are the minimum number of emails? Maybe how far should I space them out? And then the natural question comes, maybe in those emails, when do I ask them to like either refer me, write a review, or do I give a coupon code? All those questions.
Smart. First, like segment it to they have made their first purchase. You could figure that out in an automated flow, like orders equals 1 or orders is less than 2. Then wait 1 day and send them a thank you email. It essentially just introduces you and then personally thanks them. Yeah, it's automated, but you are still a person writing it. Don't farm this out. Don't use some template thing. Just genuinely thank them because you should be grateful for it. And in it, invite them to reply to you. For the handful of people who will reply, absolutely 100% make sure you write them a real thoughtful reply back. So that first email could be automated, but use that as an opportunity to engage and connect with people and build those true fans. From there, probably 2 weeks after fulfillment is when we're doing the review. And then the other one I want to do is a recommendation. And you could either send out an email that's like, hey, here's some other bestsellers you may be interested in. That is the least I would do. But if we want to get fancy, we make it conditional based off what product they bought. Let's say you have some hero product. That's how most of these stores work, because there's probably like one main hero product and then some accessories that go along with that. You send them an email that's like, hey, complete the set. You want to be able to provide them a better experience for the thing that they bought from you and by positioning that. And so an easy one to understand is like, hey, you bought a camera. Oh, did you want a tripod? That's the kind of upsell we're looking for post-purchase. The other way to do it is very straightforward, a coupon. And I've seen this be very successful. You wait 1 or 2 days and go, hey, thank you for your first purchase. If you wanted to make a second order, if you wanted to get another one of whatever you bought, and this could work well for a consumable business like a makeup store, here's a 15% off coupon, just make a second purchase. And depending on how your fulfillment set up, maybe you're fulfilling out of your garage, you do this 12 hours later, you limit it to, hey, but it only works for 24 hours and we'll combine your orders. Wow. They bought from you once, and now you're giving them an opportunity like, look, just buy a second item, 15% off, and we'll just ship it all together. And when you're a small business, a small operator, you have the flexibility to do that. You could do things that don't scale and impress people.
That's actually super golden, because when I think about DoorDash, you know how you can double dash for half the price? So getting people to buy within 12 hours before you fulfill it is actually such a brilliant way to increase the cart order value. Just it's something about getting it tacked on to the current order just makes the customer feel like it's a low lift. Even though yes, I am spending more, but I feel like I'm winning. So that is so brilliant. I love that. Anything else? Because I think a lot of people are like, I don't want to bother them too much. I email my people 3 to 4 times a week. When do we stop emailing them? Or do we just email them every single week until they keep buying from us?
Well, there's different schools of thought on it. One school of thought is buy or get off my list. What is the harm in emailing them forever? They can unsubscribe at any time. So you want to get out of your head a little bit on talking yourself out of emailing people, because email, it's quite valuable and it's inexpensive to send an email and then get those purchases. But as far as how often you should email them, for sure I want to be in touch with them at least once a month so that I'm there. I'm top of mind should they have that need for whatever it is I sell. And if I could come up with good content that adds value to them, that adds some kind of beneficial experience, even if it's an amusing anecdote you shared, then I have the excuse to email weekly. And oftentimes, no one's going to read the email, but just for them to ignore your email, they had to read the sender name. So that reminds them that you're out there. And they had to read that subject line and probably the preview text. So, hey, maybe they didn't even open it, but you still got that impression. You still saw them. And if they saw it and they were like, oh yeah, I needed to reorder that. Like, oh yeah, I got to get coffee from those guys again. Ugh. They're going to open it, click through an email. So I wouldn't overthink the content of these emails, because often it's really just about staying top of mind and reminding them that you exist.
Yeah, I'll give you an example of how it works, because I think that for early stage founders listening to this, they write an email and they go and hide, in their bedroom because they're like, oh, I'm afraid of the unsubscribes. But we know as marketers, the more emails that we send, the more that people buy from us. And so how can we help to shift the mindset of people who are like, I want to sell, but I'm afraid they're going to unsubscribe, when you actually want to send more emails? So what is a good way to get over that fear?
Well, this was kind of interesting. If you send one email every 6 months, they'll have forgotten who you were and they'll unsubscribe. If you send one email every month, you'll get fewer unsubscribes. If you send one email every week, I think that's the sweet spot where you will see the least amount of unsubscribes. Unsubscribes are a good thing. Those are people self-selecting who weren't going to buy from you to begin with.
That's the one thing that is stopping everyone. I always say, whether it's in PR, what I teach or what you're doing, I say, everything you want is on the other side of the send button. And so same thing with customers, because if they're not going to buy from you, it's either a now or a later thing. But the upside of them buying something is huge compared to them just being on your list and never buying from you. So I just encourage everyone listening now, you need to email your list at least once a week. It's just a battle of attention. And so don't think you're bothering them. Keep putting offers in front of them that is directly related to them buying, right? I mean, you can validate this, can you, from all the founders? The more emails you send, the more sales you make.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's so golden. I love what you said about that. Can we dive really quickly into do's and don'ts when it comes to asking to refer or a coupon code, things that they should avoid?
Even if you send the worst possible email, I think your worst case scenario is just nothing happens. And I also think people overthink design on email. I think the most effective emails are plain text or largely plain text. And so the thing that's stopping you is like, well, I have to design all these emails. They have to be these fancy graphic HTML emails. You don't need that. Don't let that stop you, and don't over design it. Those are the emails that are going to end up, getting marked as spam.
Exactly.
The plain text email, those are the ones that encourage responses. Those are the ones that develop relationships. Those are the ones that humanize you. That's what you want to be. You want to be a person, not a brand. If you can get them to relate to you as a persona, as a person, whichever that is, wow, those will be the most effective.
And that's how we win, because we don't have the legacy reputation of some of these big brands. I send plain text emails, and I can absolutely tell you without a shadow of a doubt, I've done testing, and the more graphic images I put in there, the more my open rates and click-through rates go down. So absolutely plain text emails. Now, obviously, if you sell a product, there is a visual component, but you still need to do a storytelling and just talk about your day, talk about anything. I'll give you an example. There's a chai concentrate, and I bought it years ago, and then I forgot about it, and somehow I got on their list. I didn't buy the first time that they sent me something. I didn't buy the second time. But the third time they sent me something was about this chai cookie recipe. And for some reason, I just thought that was so interesting. I'm gluten-free, so I don't even eat cookies. But that email, which was out of the blue and not typical sales email because it was a recipe email, had me sign on to a year subscription. So because of that email, I spent, I don't know, $300-$400 now with this chai company. That was out of sight, out of mind. So absolutely, you need to just stay top of mind. So thank you for validating that. Now, there's so many features with Shopify, so many changes. What are some of the things that you're seeing that are working? What are some of the mistakes when it comes to features?
There's a suite of features that Shopify has been adding called Shop. And I don't see people adopting it the way they should, because it is all advantage and really no disadvantage. And so the first is, when someone goes to your Shopify checkout, they have to do the very painful act of type in their credit card number. Ugh, it's painful. That's really the thing that kills conversions, is unexpected shipping expense. And man, I got to go find my wallet. What Shopify has done that's so brilliant is, if anyone has ever bought on a Shopify store and then opted to Shop Pay login, when they go to your store, even if they've never visited it before, and they put in their phone number or email, immediately it will send them a code, a one-time use code that they put in, and then it logs them in, and it will have remembered their address and their payment method. That just hugely reduces friction and increases conversion rate.
I can speak to this because I actually bought 3 things this past week with Shop Pay.
The thing's dangerous.
Yeah, dangerous.
That's where it starts, is that ease of use. And you could really force this thing into action if you go in your Shopify settings, and under customer accounts, they'll give you the option between new customer accounts and legacy or classic customer accounts. Classic just means it uses passwords, and the new one is the passwordless version. That's what you want to make sure it's on. Immediately, that makes life easier. And we want to be using Shopify payments for doing our payment processing. Everything smooths out, and now you get to benefit and leverage these network effects of Shopify. All these stores powered by Shopify, anyone who's bought on them, now suddenly they can easily use your site too and have their payment details, their shipping address all auto-filled. That's incredible. So you want to have that turned on. And then along with that, you can also enable Shop Pay installments. Shop Pay installments is where it'll say like, hey, you could pay now or break this into 4 easy payments. And on that, they've got an expanded version that they'll offer some merchants once you've been around a while, called Shop Pay Premium, where they'll offer customers an even longer window at 0%. I've only started seeing that this week. That's really exciting. But you already have to be opted in and using these Shopify payments and Shop Pay. But what's interesting about those installment payments is, I have noticed the people who pay with that payment method will have a higher average order value. So me as a millennial, I got access to credit cards early. It was much easier. It is now harder for younger people to get access to credit cards. And so you want to be offering those installment payments. And like, if you're already on Shopify, Shop Pay Installments is just the easiest way to do it. And then along with that, it gets even crazier. This stuff works outside of your online store. They have an app that you can opt into. You can list your products in your store. And this app is called Shop. You have to download the Shop app. It's for customers. But in the Shop app, they can essentially search across all of these Shopify stores like they're one big marketplace. There is no disadvantage for you as a Shopify online store merchant to just list your stuff in there too. Oh man, put another surface for my products to be displayed in at very little extra effort. Absolutely enable that sales channel. And even better, they have advertising within that app that's really quite inexpensive to do, called Shop Campaigns, which previously only available on their highest tier plan. They've expanded it to everybody as long as you're in the US and Canada. But it's a customer acquisition program where you could set a cost on it. So if you know your unit economics, you don't end up in that scenario where you acquire someone at a loss. This thing prevents that. And you could choose between, all right, I want to advertise to new customers or I want to advertise to returning customers. And essentially what it does is surfaces your store and incentivizes people with a cashback program. That's not actual cash. It's like, they call it Shop Cash, store credit within that Shop app.
That's so good. So the payment installments, we need that because most people are paying in installments from what I'm seeing too. We want flexibility. But what about like Klarna and Afterpay? So does that replace that?
It would replace Klarna and Afterpay. I mean, those are good too. And Klarna is definitely a big player in that space. But I don't want it cluttered. I don't want all these apps in there. If you're already on Shopify, it's just extremely likely that you're using Shopify payments to do your payment processing, which then means it is extremely easy for you to just opt into Shop Pay installments.
I love that. It absolutely works. And it is dangerous because it's just so easy for me to buy something under 5 seconds. So I'm just like, yes, yes, yes. Danger zone. Are there any mistakes around affiliates or commissions? Anything that people get wrong about some of the features? Because they all seem great, but maybe a feature that works for someone making 7 figures is different than someone making their first 100K.
One of the exceptions to having this extremely streamlined checkout process that just gets people through it very quickly is if your store is primarily gifting, where people are going to be shipping to someone else. You'll know you have an issue if you're spending a lot of time correcting or editing order addresses in that ship to field after the fact. Like, oh, I placed this order, but oh my gosh, I meant to send this to my grandma. Can you change the address? That's an exception to that conversion optimization there. I mean, really, like, I would look at what are your customer complaints? What are the top customer support inquiries that you're fielding? And oftentimes those are going to be your leading indicator on, well, this is what's broken or this is what we have to fix.
Yeah, totally. Listening to the customer. There's so much and so much. I feel like you can come back and do an episode just on one of the mistakes. But you've given us 3 really important things to think about as we make our first 100K. Now, before we sign off, is there anything else you want people to know about that first benchmark, which is that coveted 100K on Shopify?
I wish I had pithy advice there. I think your most profitable customer is the one that already trusts you. And so if you're making that first sale, you have completed the hard part. If you're not making subsequent sales, that's on you. There's a reason for it. Either there's a problem with that product, which you would know right away based on returns, customer complaints, and chargebacks. But if not, that means we just have not focused on that post-purchase experience. And that really is the thing that helps scale a lot of these brands.
Yes.
One KPI, customer lifetime value. If you can extend customer lifetime value, that's a win for everybody.
So good. Thank you so much, Kurt. I mean, I feel like we got to have another episode just on that, on extending lifetime customer value, especially as the market gets a little volatile. We're in a trust recession, as what I've seen. So extending the life cycle of your current customer is the best way to have a viable business. So that's so good. I love that you left us with that thought. How can people find you and get into your world?
Sure. Google me, Kurt Elster. Check out kurtelster.com. And that's got links to my podcast and our agency services at ethercycle.com.
Thank you so much. Check out his podcast. It's really great. I had a recording on it, but he records with so many amazing people on e-commerce. So that's Unofficial Shopify. It's on iTunes and Spotify. So thank you so much, Kurt, for being with us.
Thank you.